Hi, my dear Astro family. Here is another educational video. It's going to be about the new Venus-Mars cycle. So we are starting a new love cycle. And this is happening on 18 degree of Capricorn. Let me just show you some couple of things here, which might be super exciting. Uh, First of all, the exact conjunction between Mars and Venus is going to happen on 18 degree of Capricorn, happening on 7th of January or 8th of January, depending on where you are. Now, look at how tight the moon is. The moon is in a trine to this Mars and Venus conjunction. And look how close the sun is. Actually, it is still in almost a quasi state. So that's super exciting. This is a really nice love cycle. So I would like to break this down for you. But before we do that, I would like to remind you that my 12 house booklet is about to be launched. Just a couple of days left. It's a good 200 pages altogether. So if you would like to understand your 12 house a lot deeper, you want to have a hang of it, then you might want to check out this booklet because it might be changing your life forever. I'm going to be touching base the curse element, the addiction element of the 12th house, how to use it in the bestest possible way. We look at planets in the 12th house, the ruler of the 12th house, the aspects formed to the 12th house ruler, the meaning of the 12th house in detail. So I think this is a super great booklet. And also, if you would like to learn a little bit more about eighth house and the medical meaning of the eighth house, then I'm going to be holding a webinar this month as well. So you might want to check that out. But just let's have a look at this archetype because I think this might be super good for many of us. Especially, I want to be a little bit technical about it. You might want to be looking at your natal chart if you have got any planets in the sign of Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, or Aries. Do you have any planets there? Because it means that your love cycle is going to be shifting quite significantly. So I would give a 3 degree orb. So especially if you have got any planets between 18 to 21 degree, maybe you can have planets on 15 degree of as well, but might not be impacted as much. So between 18 to 21 degree of the cardinal signs, then you are going to be super activated here. And depending on the planet, it's going to be determining how your love cycle is going to be changing in the upcoming 1 to 2 years. So this is taking place on the 7th of January 2026. So you can look at, for example, the previous cycle. The previous cycle started, sorry, it's just my laptop is playing up a little bit. The previous cycle started on 2024, February 22nd. And that took place on 6th degree of Aquarius. So this cycle is getting basically cancelled out. So do you have any planets around 6th degree of Aquarius or 6th degree of Scorpio, potentially 6th degree of Taurus, or 6th degree of Leo? Because then your love life might have changed the last 9 months. This cycle that is starting on the 7th of January is going to last until the next cycle. And the next cycle is finishes 2028, June 14th. So you might be wondering, Victor, how come that one cycle lasts for 9 months and the other one is going to last for 2.5 years? Well, one of the explanation of the retrograde motion of Venus and Mars. Okay, so Venus goes retrograde approximately every 18 months and Mars goes retrograde every about 25, 26 months. So sometimes this cycle is a little bit longer and sometimes it's a little bit shorter. So now we are entering a longer cycle between Venus and Mars. Obviously, it's going to last for almost 2.5 years, so a good 30 months. But I don't wish to talk about the past cycle, neither about the upcoming cycle, I mean the next cycle. We want to talk about the current cycle. We're gonna call it as a synodic cycle, happening on 18 degree of Capricorn. And by the way, it is falling onto Leo Dwad. So imagine this conjunction as a reset. It's a reset for how we integrate our desires, which is Venus, with our drive to achieve them. Now, the very good thing about this new cycle that Venus does pretty well in the sign of Capricorn, so does Mars. Mars is exalted, and Venus usually have got triplicity rulership over the sign of Capricorn. Because this happens in the sign of the goat within a specific Leo dwad, this energy is very structured, but fueled by this hidden need for recognition or creativity. That 18 degree of Capricorn that is focusing on mastery, integrity, the long-term legacy. Of course, there is a Saturnian influence there, and Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, which is about we have a vision and we can make it happen if we want to. So this Venus-Mars cycle is going to be helping us quite significantly. I mean, Capricorn demands that we stop chasing kind of like fleeting passions and start building things that last. So this cycle is about the work of love, the discipline of action. Um, yeah, I know 18 degree, in some astrological concept, it's considered to be a very critical degree. It is said to be a point where one must take full responsibility for their path or face the consequences of cutting corners, and we might need to be paying price for it. But the fact that it is falling onto Leo Dwad, by the way, if you don't know what Dwads are, which basically every zodiacal sign is divided into 12 sub-segments of 2.5 degree. So the 18th degree of Capricorn falls into the Leo Dwad, and basically it lasts from 17.3 to 20 degree of Capricorn, and that's always a hidden element. And it would talk to us about the hidden fire. What's interesting is while Capricorn is cold, earthy, very professional, the Leo what actually adds a layer of pride, visibility, the heart. So this cycle isn't just about building, let's say, a business or a relationship for the sake of security. It's about building something that we are truly proud of. This is kind of like the CEO with a heart type of archetype, or the artist who is ready to build an empire. So this is Leo is the king and Capricorn is the CEO. So there's a lot of leadership quality on that 18 degree as well. So this cycle, like we have established already, it lasts till 2028 June. So therefore, the seeds are planted here right now. Uh, this is about kind of like becoming a power couple or seeking partners who respect your ambition. Or it's coming together with a partner and working towards a shared mission. From a career perspective, this is a super high drive to reach the top, and success is not just sought for money, but for status and respect as well. This cycle could really talk to us about turning our hobbies into empires. This is a disciplined creative output. Yes, there is shadow side as well. We can become overly bossy, my way is the highway attitude, or we can prioritize work over emotional connections also. Now, this Venus-Mars conjunction is actually part of a large Capricorn stellium because just 2 days prior, basically we have got a new Venus star point forming as well. because Venus made a conjunction to the Sun, and that's what we're going to call as a Venus star point that is taking place on 16 degree of Capricorn. But the sun is still very close to this combination, and sun often highlights something or it purifies something. So it purifies a connection between Venus and Mars. It purifies our love life. It's kind of like a strong urge to burn away old ways of relating. It's very much about making room for this new, more empowered version of yourself and your relationships. So, for example, this conjunction is going to be happening on my Mercury, which is the ruler of my fourth house and seventh house. So, I'm expecting some shifts when it comes to relationships, for example, or my family cycle, and so on. But uh, Um, but most importantly, what I also like here is that the moon is enshrined to it. So it really is about getting in touch with a healthier version of ourselves. Because Moon is in Virgo, and Moon in Virgo might be talking to us about wanting to be a little bit more perfect. So, for example, if you would like to make changes in your aesthetics, because Venus represents aesthetics, Virgo represents something to do with a healthier option, and Mars gives the drive to achieve that. I can also imagine that on a global scale, we might start moving away from this influencer culture towards more of a legacy type of culture. So, it's kind of like when the value is no longer found in what is new, but it's found in something that is actually durable. Now, like I mentioned, this conjunction takes place on a Leo dwad, and that adds that royal quality to it. So it's like the rise of certain type of micro empires. Individuals and small groups will stop trying to appeal to everyone and instead focus on building something prestigious, like a brand, for example, because Leo represents brands. So does Aquarius, actually. Sometimes the Capricorn energy feels a little bit robotic, but I think the Leo what is gonna add that heart-centered energy to it. The world will start demanding these CEOs and leaders and institutions to kind of become a little bit more noble. For example, um, the fact that we have got this trine to moon in the sign of Virgo, that's kind of like the practical beauty element. Virgo is always about functionality. So I would I'm gonna be seeing a global trend, most likely in connection to something that is functional. So, for example, imagine that in design, tech, or architecture, the focus shifts to things that work perfectly or works efficiently. And Capricorn represents something that is actually timeless. So with Virgo, we always do a bit of a detox, a cleanup. So I can imagine that there's going to be a detox of how we spend our energy, for example, or this is a little bit more of a minimalist ambition, like doing less, but doing it with much higher quality or creation of better systems. Venus rules finances as well, and Mars rules the drive. So, this new cycle in Capricorn, which is the sign of banking and government, I can actually imagine new relational contracts coming up, formalizing certain type of things. We may see a rise in you know, legal structures for non-traditional relationships. I can imagine that there's going to be a more interest in hard assets such as land, infrastructure, and craftsmanship as well. like I said, this Venus and Mars is still kind of like in a Kazimi state. So that would really talk to us about that the old ways of asserting power, which is of course Mars, or seeking pleasure, which is Venus, is actually kind of like getting scorched away a little bit. But Kazimi is kind of like a moment of truth as well. So it shows how we use our own power. It is a time when the king and the queen, and that's the sun, must align their action and their values. And this might be getting kind of like not necessarily demanded, but requested by the people because the moon is actually in trine to it. With Venus being in the picture, what I want. And Mars is how I'm gonna go after it. And Capricorn says it's gonna happen through disciplined effort. So this is not just about relationship. However, one of the topics could be the committed partnership, of course. But this aspect somehow applies to any of your own desire. And Capricorn says we're going to have to be very realistic about it. And the Leo, what says we're going to have to be super creative. And whatever we create, this must look aesthetic. It must look somehow good, basically. So, like I said, this is a triple conjunction. And the triple conjunction is coming together with the sun, and the sun illuminates. The sun shows us the path that we have to be on. This is not highly romantic combination. This is about functionality. This is about what works for us, what doesn't work for us in our connections, in our partnerships, the way we go after our own money, and so forth. What's exciting here is that both of the planets are sitting right next to the king. So the king is giving valuable insight to this power couple. Of course, Capricorn is highly traditional, so this is a traditional commitment. This is a formalized commitment. We sit down and then we have negotiations, and potentially we are signing a contract as well. There are certain type of rules while we are aiming a goal, but it looks like many of us can get rewarded quite handsomely, basically. So I would say that there's nothing bad I can actually mention about this combination. I'm seeing this as a very positive like a very positive combo, and it's time for us to start working on our goals. But we have to come up with a plan. Okay, so we're gonna have to come up with a plan. How are we going to be achieving our work goals? How we are going to be gaining more money and so forth. So do let me know in the chat box below whether we have got or whether you have got any planets around the 18 degree of the cardinal signs. Firstly, I want to touch base a little bit on Kazimi as well, because traditionally speaking, Kazimi represents approximately about 70 minutes of the exact conjunction. So here we have got 21 minutes. I do have got some reservation about it, but you know, um, whether it's valid or not. But in the medieval astrology, they started looking at more to do with within a 1 degree. But the ancient tradition really is strict about that 17 minutes. I also would like to mention that not every single Kazimi is actually equal. So there is an astronomy involved here as well. And from a traditional point of view, this is still called as a combustion because it would be 21 minutes away. But I still believe that this is a super good conjunction, especially because the moon, which represents us, are beautifully trining. It is just a half an hour, not yeah, it's a 30 minute arc trine, so this is super exact. Uh, I would also say that the Sun-Venus cycle is actually kind of like coming up every 8 years. So this could even talk to us about that something that you might have started approximately about 4 or 8 years ago. This might be the culmination of it. And because Mars is being part of it, we might be able to go after it. But every 8 years, there is a conjunction in the same sign between the Sun and Venus, roughly on the same degrees. But so something that went down in 2018, it somehow repeats for you. But now Mars is in the mixture as well. So it gives you a lot more bravery. It gives you that motivation to go after it. So, for example, if you had a failed relationship happening in 2018 or even in 2022, January, because one Venus conjunction with the Sun always retrograde and one is always direct. So we had one in 2022, January 8th, uh, and that happened actually on 18 degree of Capricorn as well. So basically, that was a retrograde Venus. And now we have got a direct Venus. But on that 18 degree, we have got the Venus and the Mars conjunction. So it reactivates events from 2022. Of course, if you want, you can kind of like think about what went down in history around that time. Because Venus was retrograde around that time, in 2022, January, that's more internal, reflective, more about re-evaluating something. Maybe you started questioning your long-term security, your professional worth, your structural integrity of the relationship that you are in. And potentially you were forced to look at where our foundation were cracking. And that was a time of realization. Like you might have said that I cannot continue to build my life on this unstable ground anymore. Now we've got the planet of engine there in 2026, January. That's Mars. Venus is actually direct, so it's surely about moving forward. So in 2022, we realized what needed to change. 2026 is about doing it. Mars is giving you the gas that was missing in 2022. There was this internal renegotiations and potential doubts that might have happened in 2022. And now we are ready to become a star. You are ready to step into that individuality. There is that desire for recognition because of the Leo what. So it's not just something that I'm in the dark and I'm building something, but I'm ready to put that on a stage as well. So imagine that in 2022 you realize that you are somehow undervalued. For example, at work, and I need a better long-term plan. So 2026 would be about launching this new business. And I'm going to demand the executive title for myself, and I'm going to be cementing something in my professional legacy. Or from a relational point of view, maybe there was a realization that something, or like realization or just showing up that something was lacking, like structure, for example, or shared ambition in your partnership. And now, 2026, I'm ready to merge assets. I'm ready to become a power couple. I'm ready to walk away from a certain type of partnership. Or maybe your relationship with money in 2022, I had to realize that maybe I had to be more disciplined. So this cycle could really talk to you about achieving a major financial milestone, and you're going to be investing in certain type of hard assets. And that could be, like I said, land, business, and something that is going to give you status. The Leo Dwad acts a filter. So it says that, it's something that like the joy has to come back into the work that I do. The structural changes that we started making in 2022, it is reaching a point where it can be celebrated. So it's like a little bit of closing a loop, basically. You know, this is a moment where the work of the last 4 years actually can pay off. So this is a short video. I don't want to drag this out, but I did want to make one. And I highly recommend signing up for my YouTube channel because there are going to be 5 new cycles starting in the next few weeks in the sign of Aquarius. 5 new cycles. So, therefore, that's going to be a big one, right? So, I want to be talking about those cycles. So, in my next video, I will be touching base on the Pluto Mars cycle. So, see you in my next video. Take care. Bye bye.